Hey everyone, Meinke here from MLive&apos, joined as always by Justin Rogers. We're not in Maryland, as you probably have noticed. We are in the friendly confines of Ann Arbor, Michigan, with lines going to London and San Diego and all these crazy places this year. No preseason travel for us. We won't be in Washington this week, won't be in Jacksonville next week. So you're stuck with us here. Preseason loss for the Lions tonight, Justin, 21-17, right? Not that it really matters, but right. 21-17 loss against Washington, and good effort from both of the first unit offense and the first unit defense.
Yeah, I came into this game, I'd mentioned in our preview video, I was looking for the defensive line to generate some pass rush, and I think we saw that. Wasn't all first stringers, but Tyron Walker burst through with a sack. You saw Philip Hunt generating some nice pressure off the edge. Who's Philip Hunt, you may ask? CFL sack kick a few years ago. Forcing his way, I guess, a little bit more of the conversation, the mix, and more blitzing from Terrell Austin. That hit from DeAndre Levy was as punishing of a hit as you'll see on a first-string quarterback in this preseason, I think.
As an esteemed scribe once said on Twitter, he left a beard imprint on RG3. That was from none other than Justin Rogers. Pretty good tweet. And Philip Hunt, we did see some first unit reps from him earlier in camp in the scrimmage. So I think he's a guy who is in play, and that was a great hit from him. I looked it up, Justin. 8 dropbacks for RG3, 1 uncontested pass.
Yeah.
And that's pretty incredible pressure, I thought, from the Lions. And the line was impressive, I thought, but what you saw from the blitzing and then from the linebackers from the second level, I thought was pretty impressive. And I think it's something both you and I have noted throughout camp, is that I think you'll see a lot more blitzing this year from the Lions as they try to generate some kind of pass rush in the absence of Sue and Fairley and some of these guys. I think the Lions will be able to mitigate some of those losses up front, but you will lose something in the pass rush, and the Lions still need to cause disruption somehow. And I think a lot of that will come from the linebackers in the secondary, and we saw that with Levy. That was a great blitz from him, something he's very capable of in the past couple of years, and I think we'll see even more from this year.
Glover Quinn came to this team as one of the leading blitzing safeties in all of football. Didn't get to do it a lot his first year, a little bit more last year. James Ahedebo has a track record of blitzing. Stephen Tulloch is capable. I always talk about his handwork. I mean, he's got such good leverage and such violent hands that I think he makes for an excellent blitzing linebacker. And I think this is the next step in the evolution of DeAndre Levy. First, we saw the coverage skills, reach maturation. Then we saw the tackling machine last year with 151 stops and a lot of stops in the backfield, a career high for him, tackles for loss. Yeah. I think this year is going to be blitzing. And he did some last year, and I thought he was effective, but they're replacing Sue and Nick Fairley's interior pressure that made their defensive line so good. And they have to do it. They have to do it with blitzing. They don't have enough guys talented to win those one-on-one matchups up front. So I think you're going to see a lot more of Levy, Ahedebo, Tulloch, and to a lesser extent, Quinn and the nickelbacks coming in various packages. I loved the Levy hit because what happened was they lined up 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. Levy feigned like he was dropping back on that play, and after RG3 made that initial read, he comes in and just lays a devastating pop.
Not a very good effort, I thought, from the second and third units. They were ripped up pretty good, and that's in fact where most of Washington's production came. Was against the Lions' second and third stringers. So you can look at that as maybe the Lions don't have as much defensive depth as we thought. I think it's just preseason noise, guys being missed, being matched up in places maybe or in personnel groupings where they're not really accustomed. I just wouldn't read too much into it. You have to be encouraged by what you saw from the first unit. One guy the Lions lost from that first unit was Karan Reed. Ankle injury sustained on the second play of the game. That's something we'll have to monitor going forward. Larry Warford, another starter, the best offensive lineman for the Lions the past couple of years. He went down with an ankle injury of his own in the first quarter. 2 injuries we'll have to monitor. But I thought, damn fine day from the defense, and I think you have to like where they're at this point. This is all after RG3 had said what he said this week about being the best, believing he was the best quarterback in the NFL. And I know what he was saying. You always hear players say something kind of like that. They want to believe in their own ability. I can see where RG3 is coming from. But a guy like that who already has kind of a target on his back, the last thing you want to do is draw even more attention to yourself. And nobody would on the record talk really about that this week from the Lions' perspective, but I know for a fact guys like Glover Quinn were thinking about that, and they wanted to have their shot at him the Lions got it and they didn't miss. Good day rather from the offense as well. Justin, what did you see from those guys that you liked?
Yeah, first string, Matthew Stafford was sharp again, 6 of 8, 2 incompletions to Corey Fuller. Didn't really have separation on that first pass play. I think Stafford kind of forced it in there. Second one, he missed him. He was a little bit behind him. Fuller probably should have caught it anyway. Dan Orlovsky comes in with that second unit, and that's the battle I kind of was really watching was how that backup quarterback competition was shaping, and I think Orlovsky pulled away with his second-team performance. What do you got for the exact stats there? 13 for 18, am I right? 13 for 17, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's about as good a performance as you can expect. He took a couple sacks. I think one wasn't his fault. So, like I said, I think he pulled away a bit from Kellen Moore tonight.
Yeah, given how poorly both he and Kellen Moore have looked throughout all of training camp, this was an encouraging outing for him and some assurance that the Lions have some sort of competency behind Matthew Stafford, because we've seen something short of that, I think, throughout the past couple of weeks. Very good outing from Orlovsky, and I think at this point he's pretty well established himself as the leader for that number 2 job. Less encouraging things from the running game. 7 carries, 13 or 14 yards in the first half. Not nearly enough. Abdullah and Riddick got most of those carries. No holes to speak of. It was, I thought, a discouraging outing in terms of the run blocking. Great pass protection from the offensive line, that needs to be said. 1 sack for Stafford, and it was a coverage sack. It was a coverage sack when the blitzer was actually picked up by Riddick twice, but just nobody open. Stafford went down, played it safe. But the run blocking was a problem, and just no holes, and that's a problem we've seen in the past as well. Lions coming off that year, they ranked 28th in rushing, and they spent so much of this offseason just trying to improve both their personnel running back as well as their run blocking. I didn't see too much improvement tonight.
Found that Zach Zenner kid.
Second half playing against insurance salesmen.
For sure.
Yeah, your point's taken.
Yeah, his 45-yard run was negated by a penalty. Led the team in rushing and receiving today. I personally think this probably moves him slightly ahead of George Wynn. I don't want to react too much to one preseason performance, but this is 2 now. Zenner's had a very good camp. Wynn has been, I think, what we've always seen from him, but hasn't done much with his opportunities in the preseason, whereas Zenner continues to capitalize on those opportunities. It's still wide open, in my opinion.
2 names for you.
Yeah.
Ryan Broyles, 2014.
Never heard of him.
Led the Lions in receiving.
Yeah.
Made the team barely. Didn't do anything last year. Second name, Greg Salas, 2015. Really no chance of making the team, even though he had that huge monster game last week. Zenner looks good. I just don't read too much into the hard numbers. The numbers are impressive. 4 carries, 22 yards, long of 14. Those are all team highs. 5 receptions, 59 yards, long of 36 yards receiving. All team highs for the game. So it's impressive. It speaks for itself.
Right.
I just don't put too much into that, especially when most of that production came in the second half. It doesn't mean anything when it's coming against second and third stringers, and it's good for Zenner, and I do think he's made some headway in that battle with Wynn for that last job in the backfield. But the thing I consider as well is that Wynn does so much more, at least at this point, on special teams. And we're talking about a 4th tailback. He's not going to be carrying the ball that much anyway. It's going to be more about what he can provide in terms of special teams and these other kind of contributions. And I think at this point, Wynn is still maybe slightly ahead. But Zenner certainly has a choice. Certainly has a chance.
He is ahead on the special teams, but Zenner had a tackle on special teams tonight, I believe. He's getting incorporated into those roles, and he's willing. He's a guy that goes out there and puts the work in every day. And I know you can say that about a lot of guys, but the one thing I say all the time, I think it's a very common phrase, is you can only perform against the defenders you're put against. He performed with the guys he was put against today, and he's got a little bit more first-team work. He's a camp darling. I mean, he's just one of those guys. His college stats are unbelievable and exciting when you see him on paper, and you want to see how that translates to the NFL. It translates into performing well against second and third teamers at this stage. Right. Even if he does make the roster, I mean, how many carries did George Wynn have last year? It's not like he's going to play a big role, but you have to reward the guys that perform well consistently throughout camp and throughout the preseason, and right now he's outperforming Wynn.
No Kelvin Johnson, veterans rest. No Lance Moore, had a kid.
Baby.
Congrats to him. So that's 2 of your top 4 receivers. I really thought we'd see a lot of opportunity for Ryan Broyles, and that's a name we really didn't hear until late in the fourth quarter, and particularly late in the fourth quarter. Jim Caldwell said after the game that it was a coach's decision not to play him late, but I think it's very telling that in a game where even if everyone was out there, he should have still been getting more opportunities sooner if he was going to be a serious contender to make this team, and yet the Lions were missing two of their top guys, and he still didn't get much action. And it was a very good night from one of the other competitors for those last few jobs in the receiver room. Jeremy Ross, good night for him. Does so much more on special teams. You have to wonder at this place what Ryan Broyles' place is on this roster, if there is one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it probably seems like we're bagging on Broyles. We've hit on him a couple times during the season. I think I speak for both of us. We both like him on a personal level.
Yeah,
he's a really nice guy. We've both argued that he deserves more opportunities. At this point, it just appears that the coaching staff doesn't believe in him, doesn't want to give him the opportunities that maybe we thought he deserved last year. Jeremy Ross and Ryan Broyles finished with very similar stats tonight, but Ross did it against first and second team defenders, and he scored a touchdown. Broyles catches, much like they did last year, came in essentially garbage time, fourth quarter against third string defenders. The other guys in that competition, Greg Salas didn't do much. TJ Jones didn't do a whole lot. Fumbled or muffed a kickoff, a punt. I'm sorry. So even though Ross didn't do a whole lot on return duty, where we expect that to be his calling card, he held steady while nobody else came up to come get him. And as long as he's going to hold steady and no one's going to outperform him in camp and preseason, Jeremy Ross is going to get a roster spot. I know that was your prediction for the fifth wide receiver when we talked the other day. I think after this performance, he's moved back ahead of Salas in my mind. He didn't build on that first preseason performance.
So I was right and you were wrong. I think that sounds like a pretty good place to end this video.
Yeah, sure.
That's what we got for tonight. Lions lose 21-17. Kind of a meaningless score, though. I think we liked most of what we saw from the first units.
Absolutely.
Some room for improvement on the offense, but the defense looked dynamite. It's very encouraging outing for them. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.